What's up, ladies and gentlemen? John Bush here with Live Free Now, number 183. You know, we're going to have a great big party whenever we hit 200 episodes. Can you believe it? This is the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. As usual, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, you can count on myself and the one, the only, Manitty.
What's up, y'all?
To bring you some good news, some bad news, and some
in the middle news.
That's not very newsworthy, in fact. But today we want to talk about, as you know, the show is titled Trump, the Trump Deception, Hopium, Copium, and Complacency. And if you're Alex Jones, aka AJ, aka they're taking my show away, aka the show is supposed to end already 12 times now, aka still my heart goes out to him, then maybe you remember his documentary, The Obama Deception. Great documentary, really hard-hitting about this whole false image that Obama put forward as being a man of the people, when in all reality he was bought and paid for by Goldman Sachs largely. Well, what I want to cover on the show today is how, in large part, Trump is bought and paid for by Larry Fink of BlackRock. Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, financial investment firms. BlackRock is, some people say it's the fourth branch of government. Well, I want to cover that. I want to talk about Whitney Webb's work, and I want to draw the parallels between what happened with the Q conspiracy. Remember the QAnon thing? Total fugazi, very likely a psyop to discredit legitimate conspiracy research that was beginning to expose the pedophile elite and all that nonsense. But I think there's and we had this term hopium. You know, they're going to lock up Hillary and they're going to do mass arrests, and the storm is coming. Ryan was a big Q guy. Why, Ryan?
I was never a Q guy.
Oh,
actually,
come on.
I actually, I'm a reformed Q guy. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually never a Q guy. I never fell into the psyop. I thought it was ridiculous from the jump. I'll be honest. I actually, before I got woken up in 2018, in 2016, I was very much a Trump guy. I was going to vote for Trump. But then about a month before the election, I was just watching gaffe after gaffe. And then there was the grab by the P kind of deal. And
that was moderate raunch.
It was moderate raunch.
Grabbing by the P.
Yeah. We're going moderate raunch. That's what people have said that they'd like from us. So we'll keep it moderate, y'all. But yeah, so I just saw gaffe after gaffe with the Trump team while they were running in 2016. And I was just like, I can't support this guy. If he can't even get out of his own way to run a presidential campaign, then, you know, I'm just going to vote libertarian. So I ended up voting libertarian, even though I didn't know much about the candidates. I was a young guy back in 2016. That was 8 years ago. So I was 20 years old. So I ended up voting for Randy Johnson, and he had
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson, that's right.
Gary's Johnson.
He had a bunch of gaffes too, like was it Aleppo?
Yeah, Aleppo, the Syrian big battle town. He didn't know what it was, and Libertarian Party's just total crap.
Right. Yeah. So, and I didn't know at the time that they were kind of like also controlled opposition, or, you know, they're purposefully held down, and they put people in for the presidential race that honestly have no shot, have no integrity, and really aren't libertarian at the end of the day. As we saw in 2020, the woman that they ran was like pretty much a leftist.
JoJo Jorgensen.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't even know if they rise to the level of having the relevancy to be controlled opposition. But when it comes to the Libertarian Party now, this woman, Angela McArdle, who I think is the chair of the party, or of the LNC, Libertarian National Committee, she at least is playing politics, right? If you're going to play politics, play to win, play the game well. And she's responsible for some of these platitudes that Trump gave to libertarians. It remains to be seen as to whether or not they are going to be held. But the Hopium thing is QAnon got people to have this false sense of hope that Trump is going to save the day. He's going to arrest all the pedophiles and the storm's coming, blah, 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 blah. I want to make the point today in the program that this MAGA 2.0, Trump's second term, and the efforts to bring in liberty-minded, freedom-minded, health freedom, conspiracy research types into the fray, back into the election game, back into politics, back into the Republican Party, I believe that it is another Q-style psyop. Maybe not to the wacky and quirky degree, but let's be honest, nothing is more wacky than believing politicians, especially politicians like Trump, who have already demonstrated themselves to be against the interests of freedom lovers. Nothing's more wacky than believing they're going to do the right thing.
John, I think I can top you on that.
What do you got? Wacky tobacco?
So when I realized what the Q psyop was,
He got Q tattooed.
I started going down the rabbit hole of like what it actually could be. And so like part of the Q psyop was that Donald Trump and his team were working with the Pleiadians, an alien race from Pleiades, and that the Pleiadians were going to come back and they were going to take down all of the deep state, and 1,000 years of a golden age was going to be instituted on Earth.
Now, Trump did say golden age in his acceptance speech. That's a Q drop.
There we go. It's happening already. So now I tied this in because, at the time, it's like 2018, 2019. I got into conspiracies 2018, and I was a FedEx driver. So I listened to conspiracy podcasts all day, every day for 8 to 12 hours, depending on how many stops I had, how many packages I had to deliver. So I started doing all of this hardcore conspiracy research, and I kind of like put the pieces together. And I was like, what if this Trump QAnon psyop with the Pleiadians is actually part of this Project Bluebeam Antichrist control structure that they're going to put on us? What if Trump is the Antichrist and the Pleiadians, they bring them down as like Project Bluebeam style, and then all of the Q people and everybody's like falling for Donald Trump and things are getting way better. They take down the deep state. Things are going great. And the Bible says things go great for 3.5 years. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, what if that's it? But John's like, nothing's crazier than believing that they'll keep their word. I'm like, I think I could top that kind of crazy.
Ryan's crazier than believing they'll keep their word, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Ryan's our token conspiracy guy, and later on in the program, we'll be hit you with a conspiracy corner. I want to shout out everybody that's tuning in. Thanks for watching on X. Thanks for watching on Facebook. We're going to fire back up the Odyssey channel as well. So those of you that are tuning in on Odyssey, maybe there's crickets over there, but we're also streaming to my Facebook. We got a comment here. Feel free to comment. We want to engage with you guys. Look, Vanessa says, Ryan is speaking my language. Don't encourage him, Vanessa. Let me see. We're using a new tool here. Let's see. We're using Restream to broadcast, and we have the ability to show people's chats here. So here we got the one, the only, the lovely Vanessa Velez coming at you, our social media director. The Palladian, she's all into that weird esoteric stuff too, all that hippie spiritual stuff. I guess I'm into it also. But anyway, all right, so shout out to Vanessa Velez. We got Damselfly Moldavite says, I've heard Trump say he is for digital ID, and I've also heard him say he's against digital ID. What do you think he will do about digital ID? Well, look, Catherine Martin, I'm with Ryan. I think he's an Antichrist figure. I pray we're wrong. They're loving Ryan today. They love it. Anyway, let's get back to this question, and then I got something to say if I remember about old Ryan. So here's what I think is the play. It's a problem reaction solution. It's a classic move. It's not going to be any different under Trump, although it could actually be worse under Trump because a large section of the anti-government, anti-authoritarian population has now been brought into the fray. They campaigned for Trump. They stumped for Trump. And now their ego is associated with Trump and his success. Therefore, when Trump does something that goes against their values, their principles, against freedom, they're less likely to speak out against it, lest they have their precious little vulnerable ego bruised, because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people struggle to admit fault, admit when they're wrong. Understandably so, but that's part of the PSYOP. So problem, reaction, solution. Ready? There's two ways that this could push forward. One is problem, the border. They're rushing in immigrants, the surge. We got to crack down. We got to have this massive mass deportation, which, by the way, you got to understand the surveillance state and the police state that's going to have to be expanded in order to execute the largest deportation ever. A lot of innocent people. And frankly, I get it, right? Like MS-13 and these Venezuelan gangs are taking over apartment complexes. There are bad actors coming in through the border, right? And it's especially unfair if somebody's trying to legitimately come in with their family and going the right way rather than sneaking through. But there's also people that are genuinely sneaking or escaping. They're sneaking, but they're genuinely escaping like hardcore mass atrocity, in large part that the CIA and the United States financial and IMF instituted in their countries. Nonetheless, there's families, there's second generation, there's families that are going to get broken up. Anyway, I digress. So one way that this is going to get pushed through digital ID is potentially some sort of problem, which is the immigration issue. Reaction, we got to stop it. It's destroying the economy. Permanent Democrat state, if they're able to become voters through amnesty. And then the solution, well, we need to have some sort of national ID card that has identification, whether someone's a citizen or not. Another way is voter ID. Election fraud. They stole the election. There's more fraud coming in. Now the Democrats are crying fraud, problem, reaction. We got to do something about it. We got to make sure only citizens can vote. And then the solution, of course, is national ID, la voter ID. There's multiple different ways that it can come about. What we do know is that in 2016, in Trump's original administration, not in 2016, but throughout the administration, as a means of responding to the problem of immigration, Trump's administration expanded biometric surveillance at entry and exit points in the country and overseas when you're traveling internationally. This most definitely will expand to be for citizens as well.
If
so
I could piggyback on that, John.
He's piggybacking.
I'm piggybacking. So Bill Barr, the son of Donald Barr, who actually gave Jeffrey Epstein his first job at a children's school, maybe it was a boys' school, but I think it was just a general children's school. But anyway, Bill Barr, Trump appointed Bill Barr as his attorney general, and Bill Barr was in charge of finding out ways to institute pre-crime technology. So this kind of goes in with the digital ID stuff, and we'll be discussing Whitney Webb earlier. She actually outlines this in a 2019 article called Techno-Tyranny. And it's a very fascinating read, and it just details exactly how Bill Barr was put in charge of this project and everything. And they were working with guys like Peter Thiel, who we'll be talking about again today, and his company Palantir, all of that kind of stuff. Very, very interesting. So the Trump administration, therefore digital IDs for the border, pre-crime technology, all of these things that as conspiracy people, conspiracy researchers, we're like, hey, we're not for that. That's going to take away our freedoms and liberties, tenfold from what has ever happened before. But, this is the guy that people have lined up and backed themselves with because, he's made some promises. But as John said earlier, we know that the politicians aren't going to keep their promises.
Yeah, these damn crooked politicians. I think now would be a good time to share a quick word about one of our sponsors. And so let me drop this here. I'm going to drop the link. Now, the link might be a little bit hard to follow, but the show notes will take you there. You can click on through the links that we have there and then go ahead and check out our good friend Hakeem Anwar over at Above Phone. He's doing a free webinar coming up here pretty soon. He's also sponsored the program, so we're super grateful for everything Hakeem has done for us here at the Live Free Now show, helping to make this broadcast possible. But the show is, or the webinar is Hidden Signs Your Phone is Compromised. Hidden Signs Your Phone is Compromised. It's going down November 19th. At 2 p.m. That's November 19th at 2 p.m. So at 6 days from the broadcast when we're here live, you're going to learn how law enforcement can access locked phones and what you can do about it, which phones are vulnerable to sophisticated spyware like Pegasus, practical steps to protect your current device from surveillance, and the latest threats to mobile privacy. Again, Hakeem Anwar is the guy behind Above Phone. They also have a laptop that they're pushing out as well. Above Phone is a privacy phone. It's de-Googled. Sure, you could do a de-Googled phone on your own. There's tutorials and instructions on the internet. But if you're not super tech savvy, you want to make sure that you're doing it right. Hakeem and Above Phone take all the guesswork out of the mix. They make it as easy as possible for you to have a phone that's not constantly sending all your information, all your dirty little secrets. I'm looking at you, Danny and Vanessa, to Google and Android. And they got great phones, great, powerful, like cutting edge phones, high tech phones, and it's affordable prices. But not only that, not only do they offer those great phones, make sure you use the link if you're going to take advantage of that. But you also can join their free webinar series that they're doing constantly over there. So follow the links, check out our sponsor, Hakeem Anwar, over at Above Phone. All right, so let's get back to it. Yeah, Ryan brings up a lot of good points there. We just need to always be vigilant. And, you know, in the title, it's Hopium, Copium, and complacency. So before we get into some of the complacency elements, I want to just share about a couple of the cabinet picks, right? So we had Hopium. That's what was first. And it's like, hey, he's going to change things, and this is great. And we got Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in the mix, and I can't wait to see what happens. You know, there's hope that the future is going to be better thanks to the Donald. But let's be real here, and we'll go ahead and start with this one. Hopefully this doesn't end the broadcast, but let's be real. And this is something I always knew about, but I kind of downplayed the influence that Israel has over United States government. And, you know, I know Danny, I might be watching, I saw him there in the feed, but there's all the conversations like, it's the Jews did everything. The Jews did 9/11. They're the most powerful. They got it all figured out and they're controlling everything. And I was like, nah, it's lots of rival different factions. The New World Order is this big multipolar kind of deal. But with the Gaza stuff taking place and with them doing damage control on the modern genocide that's taking place, it really was revealing how much influence they do have. And then when you couple the work with Whitney Webb, we really need to get Whitney Webb on the show. We're trying to connect with her so we can interview her. She's the bomb. She really illustrated that the Epstein brownstone operation, learned that term from Ryan on one of our first programs we did here with Rye Guy in the mix. The brownstone operation, which is blackmailing, putting people in troubled positions, often doing illegal things in order to control them, blackmail them. That was likely, I shouldn't even say likely, that was a Mossad operation. And then you wonder, like, okay, well, how is it that Israel has so much influence and people just kowtow and bow down? Well, they got blackmailed in large part. And so, of course, they're going to go along and toe the party line. But just a quick look at some of Trump's cabinet picks. Brian Hook is leading the Department of State transition. And Marco Rubio hasn't been picked just yet, but it's likely he'll be the Department of State, right? Head of the Department of State, Secretary of State. Kristi Noem for the Department of Homeland Security. It's not looking good. They all have extreme loyalty to Israel. It's, you know, they say MAGA, really it's MIGA. It's not Make America Great. It's Make Israel Great Again. And then, you know, when I started to see some of these things, we're not going to hit on all of these because we're going to comment on the politics and stuff. We try not to get too deep into it. We try to focus on solutions and more the conspiracy side. But I did just think that things shifted from Hopium to Copium rather quickly. And really at the end of the day, one of the most important cabinet picks, the chief of staff, was revealed. And it's this woman named Susan Wiles. So I spun up a quick little mini memo. Let me throw that mini memo out to you guys here. Let's check this out. This was done with Grok, the AI tech on X, and thankfully it's not censored and completely skewed Trump. You got to give it some prompts. But
big pharma lobbyist Susan Wiles.
Yeah, this is the chief of staff pick, huge pick, right? So you got MAGA or MAHA on one side, Make America Healthy Again. Then you got Susan Wiles. So we spun up this little mini memo, right? This was on November 8th, just a few days ago. The appointment of Susan Wiles as chief of staff by Donald Trump raises significant concerns regarding the influence of big pharma and other powerful entities within the administration. This memo outlines her connections that align with the narrative of insiders or swamp creatures. All right. So here's her lobbying background. She has been a lobbyist with an organization called Mercury LLC. She was the co-chair, not just some underling of Mercury LLC. They've represented numerous pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer, enemy number one when it comes to big pharma. On top of that, she also, through this organization, represented Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Now, I don't know if I could dig it up right now. Maybe I'll hand it off to Ryan while I dig it up. But
which I mean, I can speak a little bit about Gavi while you're digging.
What do you got? What do you got? He's a big Bill Gates fan. This guy,
yeah, huge Bill Gates fan. I think his philanthropy is second to none. He's doing so much good in the world. No, I'm obviously kidding. So one thing that Derek Bros actually revealed was that something that Trump got a ton of praise in his first administration was that he had defunded the WHO, which everybody on our side of the fence is all happy. He defunded the WHO. Tedros and all of those goons, they're not going to have money to carry out their dastardly deeds anymore, right? Well, actually, he turned around and gave the funding that he would have given to the WHO to Bill Gates's Gavi Vaccine Alliance. Now, isn't that really interesting? So it seems like old Trumpy Poo, he's Trumpy Poo. He's supposed to be our guy. He's supposed to be doing things that are, pro freedom and stuff like that. But no, he's actually giving Bill Gates the funding that he was giving the WHO, which be even worse than giving it straight to the WHO.
He's a Fugazi actor. All right, I got the video pulled up. And then people, when Trump was running, I was like, yeah, but he gave money to Gavi. And they're like, no, he didn't. I was arguing with somebody. I ended up blocking this guy. He came to the land summit, so I was hesitant because he's like an in-person, he's a Central Texas guy.
Oh.
But he was always just so ugly about pushing back on our whole vote for nobody thing. And finally, it just was like, all right, he's just trolling. And I don't know, I think he spent a lot of time on Facebook. Anyway, I guess I was spending just as much time. But I was like, no, yeah, he gave money to Gavi. And they're like, no, he didn't. It was his administration. And they're like, everybody's always trying to do these mental gymnastics to provide cover for somebody, again, because their ego's tied up with him. But to make it crystal clear about this whole Gavi thing, let's go ahead and take a look. To share audio, share a tab or screen instead. Okay, so there we go. Let's hit this one. All right, here we go. Is that going to do it? Yeah, this should do audio. All right, so here's the Trumpster. Let me see if I can get us out of here. How do I get us out of here? Let's do this. Sorry, guys, I'm still learning this new platform.
Gavi operates with great transparency, and Boris Johnson is somebody with tremendous respect for you and everything you do. He called, he said, you think you could do something maybe around the Oval Office or right by the Oval Office? I said, why not? It happens to be right behind me. As the coronavirus has shown, there are no borders. It doesn't discriminate. It's mean, it's nasty, but we're going to all take care of it together. It's great to be partnering with you. We will work hard. We will work strong. Send my regards to Boris, and good luck. Let's get the answer.
We're back. Could you guys hear that? Let me know in the chat, because I didn't have the speakers turned on in here. Now, I don't want to be
Trumpkin,
an excuse guy either, but you notice he may have done that as a favor for Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister at the time, because he's like, Boris Johnson's a great guy.
He's my half brother.
He's a total clown. All these ass clowns.
It was really funny how they both came to power at the same time, and they were eerily similar in their appearance.
Yeah. What did it say? Catherine Martin said, did you hear Del Bigtree talking about Susan Wiles? Thoughts? I never heard of her before that. No, Catherine, let us know what he said or what his input was. I know him along with Mickey Willis. I saw Mickey Willis was even at Mar-a-Lago for the election night party. I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm a big fan of Mickey Willis and his lovely wife, and they do so much good work. But him, JP Sears, Del Bigtree, they all fell in line on the Trump train, in large part after the RFK Jr. Co-opting. And here's another thing: it remains to be seen what role RFK Jr. will even play. So there's just it all comes back to the exit and build thing. We don't have to support politicians. We don't have to risk lending our support, signaling our subservience. We can just lean into the whole exit and build game. Now, I want to point something out, and this is something that I've been diving deeper on. Of course, we just did a free webinar. It just wrapped up. In fact, it was the most attended webinar that we've ever done in Live Free Academy history.
1,300 live.
There was actually 1,700 that came through. We had 1,300 at once. But when you go back and look at the statistics, there were 1,700 people that came to watch live. That's the most that we've ever had. And we've done a ton of webinars. So I just want to invite people to check out the replay for that. It's, that's actually the offer we're doing. You'll hear about the offer, of course, during the webinar. The offer is not free, but the webinar is. And let me throw some advice if anybody's an entrepreneur doing any type of marketing. It's always good to direct people to a free opportunity to learn more, to build trust, to build value, as opposed to the direct offer. Just want to throw that out there as I've made my little flab there. So, I could flop through these faster than doing this stupid tool here. Maybe we'll still figure out how to get a good flow. Anyway, the CBDC sneak attack. It's the CBDC opt-out webinar. No, it just shows up backwards.
Okay.
I think. Is that backwards, guys? Let us know there. The CBDC sneak attack is you can get instant access. You just sign up here, livefree.academy/opt-out, livefree.academy/opt-out. We'd love for you guys to check it out, livefree.academy/opt-out. Instant access. Myself and Glenn Meter break down CBDCs, what has happened already, what is to come, and we spend a good amount of time talking about how to opt out. But we also talk about what I want to segue to right now, which is this awesome article by the one, the only Whitney Webb. Now, Whitney Webb, we're going to get her on the program. We'll do our best to get her on the program. She has done some incredible research. I'm going to share this now in the chat for you guys. Oh, it is backwards.
I knew it.
All right. So I think I could fix that on this end, but then we'll just stick with the same platform. So we're going to share the screen here. Window. There we go. We're doing it live, folks. There we go. So Ryan knows everything. And he's always clicked to let us know too. I love that about him. This is a great day to remove this lower third here. All right. So Whitney Webb has this great article. I shared it there in the chat. I hope you'll check it out. And in this article, she outlines Trump's speech to the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. This wasn't too long ago, but she breaks down some history of the relationship with Donald Trump and Larry Flink and Larry Flink, Finkel and Einhorn. And that's, let me know in the chat if you know what Finkel and Einhorn's from. Do you know what Finkel and Einhorn's from?
No.
I think it might be.
I know Foghorn Leghorn.
Fink and Trump go way back. It was actually Fink that was managing the Trumpsters' portfolio even before he was president. And one thing that I didn't know about that I learned from this article was that Fink was actually propped up and positioned to create a new policy should the government have an economic crisis again. Okay. And this policy essentially stated, I'm trying to pull it up here. I think I skipped over it. The policy essentially stated that moving forward, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Okay. Instead of bailing out government institutions, I'm going to put this down here and find it. Instead of bailing out government institutions, the bailouts would in large part now go to private institutions. This policy was organized by Fink, and it was organized before the financial crisis that took place, the manufactured financial crisis that took place with COVID. Okay, so here's the bit right here. It was supposed to be for the next downturn, but of course there was a downturn right around the corner. BlackRock's proposal was fortuitously timed as the next downturn followed less than a month later when the repo market became highly unstable, leading to the New York Fed to begin intervening in that market on September 17th, 2019. Now, this program was called Going Direct. Okay, so we started implementing this program called Going Direct. What was this program, right? The program essentially was referred to as Going Direct, began implemented with the pandemic was declared, but it was conveniently disguised as a policy response to COVID-19. All right, so Trump himself also boasted that soon after the pandemic was declared, he had tapped a secret weapon for advice in Larry Fink. And essentially what happened was BlackRock was able to purchase their own ETFs as a means of shoring up capital, right? So during 2020, BlackRock was instrumental in the distribution of the Fed's relief efforts, or lack thereof, having been chosen as the manager of both the primary and secondary corporate credit facilities. BlackRock rose to the occasion and used this newly given legal authority that they helped to create to purchase ETFs owned by BlackRock itself. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund, so they purchased their own financial instruments to shore up the economy. Between May 14th and May 20th, about $1.58 billion in ETFs were bought through the secondary market corporate credit facility, of which $746 million, or about 47%, came from BlackRock ETF. So in other words, I didn't do the best job explaining that. I'm still learning this myself. And there's this great series by Whitney Webb and her partner that write all these great articles about Bitcoin and stuff called The Chain. It's literally like a book of articles in this series on her website, unlimitedhangout.com. But long story short, what took place was a massive transfer of wealth. And so just right off the bat, everyone's putting Trump on a pedestal as though he's this populist guy that's going to come in and fix the economy, when in all reality, he worked hand in hand directly with Fink, or at least allowed Fink to rob the body politic to the tune of billions of dollars. And we saw a massive shift in wealth. And so here's a theory that I want to put out for you guys that we're going to be playing out in the work that we do. We're going to be playing out in this program as we dive deeper. We're going to invite Whitney Webb and her cohort who authors these articles along with her. What's his name? His name is Mark Goodwin. They're great on X as well. They got all sorts of articles. Here's what they put forward, which I completely agree with. During COVID, there was a massive transfer of wealth. Large financial institutions and oligarchs, billionaires, were able to gobble up massive amounts of assets using inflated money. COVID locked down the economy, simultaneously causing a lower demand for goods and services, slowing the economy down. Then these bailouts took place. Those bailouts are in the form of the economic stimulation, an increase in the money supply by 40%. Meanwhile, everybody's caught in this stupid divisive nonsense where they're completely reactionary. They blame Biden and Bidenomics and Kamala for the inflation, when in all reality, Trump and his cohorts led the inflation at the offset by increasing the money supply more than any other president in history. These financial institutions, these oligarchs, gobble up a bunch of assets. Now, shift to the present day. Trump wins on a campaign promise to reduce the size and scope of government, rein in spending. He puts forward the Department of Government Efficiency, which is a pseudo-government agency. It's not actually part of the government. It doesn't have real authority. He appoints Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead it. Now, these aren't actual appointments. They're not actual cabinet positions. It's another deception. Hey, look over here. We got this cool, funny guy and this great orator that's great at arguing and seems like a pretty sensible guy to lead this Department of Government Efficiency. Meanwhile, we're appointing Zionist pick after military-industrial complex lackey after big pharma bozo for the actual cabinet positions. But here's what the play is. Maybe they actually do reduce the size and scope of the federal bureaucracy. it's lowering the federal bureaucracy so as to make way for the proto-fascist corporate technocracy. You see, the New World Order, the Bilderbergs, as we covered, as Ryan so eloquently elucidated on past programs, they have control over both candidates. They always pick the winners and losers, as do the central banks when they're financing both sides of a war. You see, the BlackRocks and the Bilderbergers, and then it was like more of a Soho DNC, deep state, EU style, slight socialist communist style element had control over Kamala. And then it's a proto-fascist, big tech bro, Peter Thiel, PayPal mafia, Bilderberg element, Fink element over here with Trump. If Kamala would have won, if that's what the tides would have gone towards, then they would have pushed forward the technocracy, digital ID, CBDC, etc., using government institutions, central banks, using the bureaucracy. If Trump had won, which he did, it's going to be the same policies that are pushed forward, but they're going to be pushed forward more privately. And we see this as we outlined in depth, myself and Glenn Meter, in the CBDC opt-out webinar, livefree.academy/opt-out, livefree.academy/opt-out to get instant access to the replay. The central bank digital currencies are going to be pushed forward nonetheless, but instead of being a retail CBDC that's created by central banks and the Department of Treasury, it is going to be a centralized, censorable stable coin. Maybe it's Tether, maybe it's US dollar coin, maybe it's all of the above pushed forward. And the problem reaction solution that Whitney Webb also reveals in this great article, Trump embraces the Bitcoin dollar, stable coins to entrench US financial hegemony. Problem, debt crisis, $35 trillion in debt. Reaction, we really got to do something about this. The US economy could become insolvent. It already is. It's a total fugazi. Could collapse. Solution, these stablecoin issuers. A stablecoin is a cryptocurrency where one unit of cryptocurrency is pegged to $1. So one tether will always be $1, although they have been depegged before. But the solution, what's taking place already, is these stablecoin issuers have been purchasing US treasuries, purchasing US debt. They're lending money essentially to the United States government, helping out the government to resolve this debt crisis. There's also efforts to use Bitcoin as a means, acquire more Bitcoin, use Bitcoin to help deal with this debt crisis as well. So there's all sorts of fugazi nonsense going on. And I just want to encourage people to look alive. And that's why we're big proponents of the exit and build strategy. This system is operating exactly as it was intended to operate. It's not Trump or Kamala who's in power that makes a difference. It's the system itself. And let us not forget, there is a permanent government, a shadow government. There are large financial institutions. There are large special interests, central banks, military industrial complex, pharmaceutical industrial complex, Zionist, Israeli, neoconservative nonsense that form a foundation for the government. I had this realization when I was like examining Trump, and he doesn't really have principles. He was a Democrat. He kind of just flip-flops on this. He just wants to win, right, and be successful and maybe make America great in his image or whatever. And there was like, Kamala, does she really care about the little guy or equality or whatever? No, this is all just fugazi smoke and mirrors. In all reality, there are two slightly warring factions. I wouldn't even say war. There's factions that are kind of butting heads a little bit because they want to be the lead, even though they're still going to benefit. And in all reality, what they desire is control over the mechanisms of government, because government, my friends, the state apparatus, which coerces people into doing things they wouldn't have done were it not for the gun in the room, it's this institution that is most valuable. It's controlling this institution so as to benefit yourself, your family, your company, so as to kill brown people in the Middle East, so as to prop up a greater Israel. And our work on this planet, once we realize that, is not to dismantle this institution. That may be a task too tall, but it's to figure out how we can carve out our own semblance of sovereignty by creating alternative institutions so future generations, our children, our grandchildren, can inherit these structures that will allow us to trade amongst ourselves, to meet our wants and needs without the centralized system, and ultimately to opt out and do so peacefully. What say you, Ragay?
Beautifully said. And this whole stable coin thing I mean, it's pretty dastardly. And, John and I go back and forth a lot about how, John likes to say they're not omnipotent. They're not all powerful. They don't control everything, because a lot of people are like, woe is me. I can't do anything. I can't fight back. No, you can fight back. You exit and build to the best of your ability. And that's how we fight back. But what I always say to John is, they're not omnipotent, but they're pretty damn close, because they have think tanks, like dozens and dozens of think tanks that put together all of these strategies and contingency plans and all of these other things to make sure that they pretty much get their way when they want to get their way. And if they don't get their way, they, like I said, have a contingency plan. But you know what? I think the comments, I've been kind of looking at the comments while John was talking here, and it's really, really interesting because shout out to Gia. She brought up the fact that wiles means clever trick. So I actually looked it up, just, trust but verified, like John always says. So I looked up wiles, and a wile is a stratagem or a trick intended to deceive or ensnare. And then Jeffrey, also in the comments, shout out Jeffrey, he brought up the devil's wiles. So in Ephesians 6:11 of the Bible, it refers to the wiles of the devil, Satan's cunning and deceptive tactics to lead us astray. Really, really interesting. Now, if I can add upon Gia and Jeffrey's insights there, MAGA is the fifth.
Is this our conspiracy corner?
Well, not yet, but I just wanted, because the chat's going on about this right now. MAGA is actually the fifth highest degree of the Church of Satan, the fifth and the highest degree of the Church of Satan. So really, really interesting that wiles is a clever trick. Wiles of the devil, meant to like deceive us and all these things. Trump picks wiles to be his chief of staff. And then MAGA being the fifth highest degree of the Church of Satan. It's all kind of interconnected here and overlapping. So thank you guys in the chat for bringing those insights to life. It's all kind of really tying together for me here.
Come on. Shout out to the chat. Thanks everybody for being involved in the program. We're rocking and rolling, moving and grooving. If you're just tuning in, this is the Live Free Now show, Live Free Now number 183. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do so. You can subscribe on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple, iTunes. Head to livefreenow.show. That's livefreenow.show to do so. And Ryan, why don't you give a little pitch for your good friend, our good friend here on the program, Christian Yordanoff, who is one of the sponsors of the program, and he has a really special offer for people that may be dealing with stress, anxiety, any health ailments whatsoever. What is he bringing to the table today? One of our sponsors, Christian Yordanoff.
Yeah, guys, absolutely. So if you go to livelongerformula.com, you'll be able to check out Christian's website there, and he goes over a very huge variety of health ailments and problems, illnesses that you may be experiencing. So one thing that I can say about Christian is that he helped my wife, Elizabeth, immensely with my wife with her eczema. And, it started off really, really bad on her hands. And then through the course of working with Christian, it got immensely better to where you wouldn't even be able to tell that she ever had it. So definitely very highly recommend Christian. But not only does he work with, skin conditions, but also gut issues, gut permeability issues, really anything, whether you're overweight, underweight, anything really under the sun. He is a holistic health practitioner. He can pretty much help you with any health ailment that you're dealing with. He comes with the LFA stamp of approval. And one thing that I thought was really unique about what Christian offers is that he basically gives you almost 24-hour access. I mean, the man does need to sleep, but you have a client portal with him and you can ask him questions anytime, day or night. Say, hey, do you think that I could eat this? Because you do a food sensitivity test to see what foods are actually causing maybe some of the ailments that you're experiencing. So you can always message him, check in here and there. Should I take this supplement? Would you recommend eating this food? I'm going out tonight. Anything to watch out for? Christian talks a lot about PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats, or polyunsaturated fatty acids. and how they stay in the body. Now we're discovering for up to 7 years, like 4 to 7 years, I believe PUFAs stay in your body. So, just going to McDonald's isn't just, okay, I'm just going to have a cheat meal and go to McDonald's and kind of binge a bit. But no, you're actually putting chemicals in your body that are going to stay there and cause inflammation for the next several years. So something to think about. And Christian can provide all of those insights and more. And what he's offering is a free 45-minute consultation. So I would definitely recommend for you to go check that out. If you have any health ailments, you have nothing to lose. It's completely free. And go to livelongerformula.com.
Let's go. Yep. Shout out to our sponsors. They help make the program possible. We got about 15 minutes or less. If anybody has any questions they want to ask about what we've been talking about or any comments whatsoever, we are definitely following along. Looks like we had a question over here. Jeffrey says, Jeffrey Bailey, are you still bullish on XMR? The XMR bazaar needs a lot of work. This X and a build shit ain't going to be easy at all. Nope, it's not going to be easy, but nobody said it was going to be easy. And like Thomas Paine said, the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. That which we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. These are the times that try men's souls. Better to live on your feet than to die on your knees. What else we got?
There's beauty in the struggle, baby.
Beauty in the struggle. Within every adversity lies the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But to answer your question, so XMR, he's referring to Monero, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go take a look at the markets, actually. I mean, crypto is going absolutely gangbusters. We're going to do the Unlike Your Financial Sovereignty webinar, updated, massive MAGA. Should we call it the MAGA bull run? I don't know. That's some satanic shit.
Some satanic shit.
So let's take a look at the markets here. And of course, Bitcoin right now is trading at $91,960. Oh my goodness gracious.
John, but what do you think about Notcoin? Are you bullish on Notcoin?
What's Notcoin?
I don't know. Just it says it right there.
Where?
Notcoin, like right above Elon Musk inspired.
Oh, where?
Go up right there.
Oh, Notcoin.
Notcoin, bullish.
That's not your coin.
It's up 3.3%.
3.3. Come on. We should have sold all our Bitcoin and put it into Notcoin. Now we're freaking. Oh. You know what the sound this makes? Wah, 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 wah. All right, nice harmony there. So Bitcoin's going absolute gangbusters, and yes, my friends, it is very likely because of the Trump train. I had this guy that was a big Trump guy and debating and pushing back on my old vote for nobody campaign. And he's like, well, now your portfolio is probably looking pretty good. If that's all we cared about, ladies and gentlemen, we wouldn't be doing the work that we are doing. But yeah, the portfolio is looking pretty good. If I may say so myself. What happened here? Whoa, that would have been a good time to buy. Anyway, this is very likely due to the Trump train and also Trump's positive stuff about Bitcoin. But again, I'm still bullish on Bitcoin. I'm a fan of Bitcoin. I'm all about holding Bitcoin. But Bitcoin has shifted its value proposition to a store of value, a digital gold. It was originally supposed to be peer-to-peer electronic cash, subversive in nature, allowing us to send and receive transactions to one another, buying and selling goods or services, and the government couldn't do a damn thing about it. That's still the case, but it is a little bit more expensive to transact in. In fact, let's take a look at the transaction fees as they stand today. Looks like it's $2.06 to send a Bitcoin transaction of average size, $2.06. So, when I first started stumping for Bitcoin, 2013 or so, I was encouraging local stores to accept it as payment alongside Visa and Venmo and all that stuff. That might even have been before Venmo was really popular. But it doesn't make much sense for somebody selling a $5 coffee or a $15 book to charge $2 transaction fee. This was all done by design, if anybody's read Roger Ver's Hijacking Bitcoin. But nonetheless, for those of you that are looking to protect wealth, if you've built wealth, or you're looking to grow wealth into the future, I still like Bitcoin. But when it comes to our good friend Jeffrey's question here, And when it comes to, well,
Oh, real quick before
what do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
Before we move on to XMR, so you're the Bitcoin expert. Let me ask you this: what if you traded Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash, did the transaction since Bitcoin Cash has really low fees, and then the recipient of the Bitcoin Cash just immediately converted it to Bitcoin? Would you be able to skirt those fees?
No. So if you sent someone Bitcoin and then they convert it to, I'm sorry, you're saying send someone Bitcoin Cash and then they convert to Bitcoin?
Correct. You convert your own Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. You send it as Bitcoin Cash, and then they receive it and they turn their Bitcoin Cash. They convert it to BTC.
So for you to convert your Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash, that will take a transaction fee.
Okay.
Because you have to send it to some exchange account. A lot of wallets will do this internally. So you're still going to have to pay the transaction fee there. It's just the same kind of deal as like hold your Bitcoin as though as your investment. When people have investments in securities or stocks, they're not buying and selling all the time. Some people are day traders, but a lot of people buy and hold. So it's like stack your Bitcoin. It's what in the future, potentially as Bitcoin continues to go up. Wow, it's pretty cool to have told people like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go up in the future. You can borrow against it. Now, if you have a decent position, you could borrow against your Bitcoin, which I've done numerous times, and put a down payment on a car or even buy a freaking car. If you have 1 or 2 Bitcoin and it's worth $100K to $200K, you could borrow against it, non-taxable event. You could buy a $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000 car, and then you could pay yourself back, skipping the banks at a much lower interest rate than today's rates. Pretty freaking cool. But I was going to say, you can just hold Bitcoin, like deeper storage investment, and then you just have your spending account with Bitcoin Cash. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin Cash. It's what Bitcoin was supposed to be as far as really low cost transactions. And because it's low cost to send transactions, and because the community wasn't trying to, they didn't get psyoped into thinking that it should be slow and archaic and not cheap to send. They want it to be expensive to send. So people hold like gold and the value. And that means it's not as accessible. There's not as much of a supply to buy. So the demand going up will drive the price up. The Bitcoin Cash community was like, this is cash, hence the name Bitcoin Cash. Anyway, the challenge though, unlike Monero, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin are transparent. So to bring it back to Jeffrey's question, let's go all the way down here to see Monero. Monero is actually taking a hit right now. A lot of other cryptocurrencies are going up in value. Monero's been down 7.9%. Now, just a few weeks ago, all the other cryptos were down and Monero was up. So that's interesting. The cool thing about Monero, though, is it's completely private. All of the transactions are obscured. You can't see who sent what to whom, how much was sent, which is why I'm a big fan of Monero, which is why I'm going down to Monerotopia in Mexico City just this weekend to speak about the 3 C's for opting out of the CBDC beast system, hanging out with old Derek Bros. Aaron Day, who is a really great guy doing a lot of good work, will be there as well. But the cool thing about Monero when it comes to price, now, if you're looking to speculate and invest in Monero, not so cool. If you're looking to hold Monero and use it as digital cash, untraceable, private, unstoppable, uncensorable, unconfiscatable digital cash, it's actually a good thing that the price has remained relatively stable. This is going all the way back to November of 2022. And as you can see, the price has been trending in this channel here of 136 on the low side and about 172 on the high side. Now, because the price isn't super high, that's a decent change, but it's not all over the place like you see other cryptocurrencies. It's almost become a stable coin in itself, especially the recent weeks here. So here's the challenge, and this is what I've said in the past. Who is this showing the live match on my Telegram live streaming channel? We got spammers coming in here. Can never escape the spammers. We're blacklisting them. Feels good to blacklist. Anyway, let's
brownstone them.
Let's brownstone them, and they can brown nose me, or the sun don't shine. Anyway, I was like, it remains to be seen whether Monero will go up in value like Bitcoin is, for example. There's definitely not the institutional money demand, which is what's driving Bitcoin price up. Retail demand right now, everybody's got fear of missing out. You're telling them to buy Bitcoin when I've been telling them to buy Bitcoin since it was less than $1,000. Telling them to buy Bitcoin when it was $3,300, when it was $10,000, when it was $15,000, when it was
John
$20,000.
told me to buy when it was $25,000. and I didn't.
And he waited,
I
but he
waited.
got in before, like, what? It's doubled now, huh?
I think I got in around 60 or so and did dollar cost averaging
He's
for
winning.
a while. And now, it's gone up 45%, 40% over the last week or two. So
Let's go.
come on.
Come on. And so it was like, I don't know if XMR is going to go up like Bitcoin because there's not big banks and financial institutions. Larry Fink's not clamoring to get into Monero. Also, Monero's been delisted from every single mainstream exchange just about, which means there's not as much liquidity, which means there's not a whole lot of people can't throw in hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars easily and buy Monero on an exchange, which would drive the price up. And that's another reason why the price has become relatively stable, because there's not a lot of speculation going on. So it really is, in fact, a godsend that Monero's been delisted from these exchanges, because now it gets to step deeper into its purpose, which is to subvert the government and the financial institutions so they can't stop us from sending private transactions to one another online. And that's a very beautiful thing. It remains to be seen if the price will continue to rise in the future. The price rise in Bitcoin and Monero is very much dependent on the size and the passion of the counter economy. So if you want to see Monero's price rise, I encourage you to use it, to buy it, and to tell more people about it. But at the end of the day, the number go up kind of phenomenon with Bitcoin was always a side benefit, just like us doing the Trinity stuff. We set up a church. We have a non-statutory trust and a private membership association. And the fact that we're not required to pay income tax on donations we receive through the church is a side benefit. It's not the number one benefit. The number one benefit is we have these organizations that will empower us to better serve our divine purpose on this earth. Just the same, Bitcoin's original benefit and purpose wasn't to make a bunch of money. It was to subvert the freaking government and the central banks. But unfortunately, the movement behind Bitcoin was psyoped, lost its way by the Michael Saylors and the Larry Finks of the world. But Monero is still a beautiful gem that enables us to trade freely outside of the system. I do want to invite people to check out Monerotopia. Monerotopia is taking place this weekend. They still have tickets available. I think they might have a live stream as well. Derek Bros will be speaking. Aaron Day will be speaking. This guy named Amir Taki will be speaking as well. He's an old school Bitcoin privacy guy, developer. Really early on, he created this development code called Libitcoin, I believe. Anyway, it's going down in Mexico City. Excited to be a part of this great event. Monerotopia.com is the website. Monerotopia.com is the website. Julie says, do you suggest taking profits on the Bitcoin or just keep on holding? Well, it depends. And I know people don't like that answer, but it depends on where you're at in life. You got something to buy? Do you need the money? If you don't need the money and you're well off financially, I would just keep on holding on for dear life. But of course, ones and zeros don't benefit anybody. So it all depends what it is that you want out of life. The price is sure to rise. It'll likely correct down. Who knows? Back down to 70 or so before it rises back up substantially. We very well may see it break 100,000 like today, this week. It may bump up to 100K and hit resistance. I really don't know the answer to that question. Only time will tell. But I do know that dollar cost averaging is the best way to get into the space. Don't go all in if people are all excited with fear of missing out right now. And we do have lots of really good crypto courses, Bitcoin courses that we're going to be re-releasing in light of all this stuff. So you can get some good, sensible advice on how to play the Bitcoin game. And more importantly, how to acquire cryptocurrency and transact in it privately. All right, Hopium, Copium, complacency. Do not allow yourself to get complacent, my friends. If you voted for Trump, I don't want to be disrespectful, but if you fell for the deception, it's pretty freaking obvious. And I tell you what, I've been rather frustrated with how many freedom people fell for this nonsense. Like, wasn't the first 4 years evidence enough that this guy shouldn't be trusted? Not only the promises that he made during the original campaign that he never carried through with. He did carry through on a good number of promises that made government slightly better. I'll give him that. But then Operation Warp Speed, lockdowns, racking up the national debt, dramatically increasing the money supply. And then everyone's like, he's the peace president. It really just goes to show how much of a lack of critical thinking there is, even within our little freedom movement. We think you got all the critical thinkers. how so easily people fall for this narrative that he's a peace president and that he didn't start any new wars. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, he didn't start new wars because the United States government was already entrenched in 7. And in almost every single one of those instances, he dramatically increased the size and scope of the war. Not to mention, he dropped more bombs from unmanned Predator drones and killed more innocent civilians through those Predator drones. And now all of a sudden, he somehow got the banner of being a peace president. People got to take their heads out of their asses if we are to turn the tide around. Just, yeah.
Do you see that happening?
You know, there's folks like Tom Woods, of course, good friend Tom Woods, the great Tom Woods, as we refer to him. He did an interview with Dave Smith, who's a great orator, great arguer, one hell of a funny guy as well. But it was like, why I don't know if Tom said this. I didn't watch it. I do need to watch it. But Dave's like, why I'm endorsing Donald Trump. And I did see people like Tom still being critical of Trump. But as Catherine Martin pointed out before, I'd love to hear the actual clip. But we'll take Catherine's word for it. We were talking about this Miles, or what was it, Lyles? This Lyles. Wiles, Miles, Lyles, Tiles, Dials, Smiles, Child. He was really, says what, he was really positive regarding her. Talking about how she'd never betrayed Trump. Apparently he was involved in RFK's campaign. He was involved in RFK's campaign, and that's the challenge. There's a chunk of people that were like, yeah, we need to vote for Trump. He's the lesser of two evils. Anything to upset the deep state, anything to upset this stupid clown leftist nonsense, cut your kids' genitals off, BS, bogus, gender, this and that, right? And so they were like so reactionary. And that's the challenge with not standing for something. You'll fall for anything. We've had some good one-liners on today's show. But the people, they wanted to vote against this. And so there's people that like Tom Woods that are like, yeah. And Tom Woods said, a vote for anyone is a vote for, you vote for anyone, you inevitably get John McCain. But then there's other people, and I'm not trying to throw Del Bigtree on the bus. I don't know exactly what he said or what the hell ever. He's a total badass in his own right. So even if he did say this kind of stuff, he gets a little bit of a pass. But there's other people that are now engaging in this excuse making. And that's exactly what I saw as soon as I put out that memo, Susan Wiles. And people, instead of being like, oh my God, this is a really bad sign. She's like a total swamp creature in bed with the pharmaceutical companies and also the United Nations. I didn't mention that earlier, Gavi and the United Nations. I'm really concerned. Instead, they make excuses like, well, it sounds like she's pretty effective. She led his campaign after all. This will be great. Right? Or she's going to be loyal, at least. That kind of thing takes place. So
why would she say that? Why would she say that she would never betray Trump? That's almost like a foreshadowing to me. Like I, being conspiracy theorist and all these things, you look for patterns in what these people do. So now I'm just wondering if we're going to get a news story in a couple of years that, she somehow betrayed Trump. Like, remember Pence betrayed Trump and all of that kind of stuff. So if she did indeed say that, as Catherine said that she did, then I'm wondering if that's some kind of foreshadowing for a news story later on.
Okay. Yep. And we got to wrap up here pretty soon, but Mimi8333 just hopped on board. This video explains, and we got to be nice. I'm going to go to just me. This, not that Ryan's mean or anything. Mimi, all right, Mimi, I hope you're watching still. This video explains why warp speed was a good idea. Somebody sent me this too, because we've been banging on Trump in our email list. All right. So let's just use this as an example. Stopworldcontrol.com. And Mimi, stick with us. And I'm going to do my very best to be sweet. But I've seen what this is. And thanks, Mimi.
She's here.
Mimi B333.
We love Mimi.
All right. So Mimi, I saw this. Somebody sent it to me. So I've already reviewed it. I didn't watch the whole video, but let's take a look at what we're talking about here. And I got to say, Mimi, this type of material, it has a lot of, Q tones to it. And I just want to share that I wholeheartedly reject it. I don't know who the people are behind it, but perhaps they have good intentions. But this is what we call in the title of this video, Hopium. There's a lot of hope that gets placed in these big, powerful people. Some of it's a deliberate psyop to take us off of our path and to keep us from recognizing that we have the divine and creative capacity within ourselves to build the world that we desire, both for our own personal lives and our own personal benefit, but also collaboratively coming together to create a better world for future generations to enjoy. And along comes content and stuff like this that are like, Trump's going to save the day, and how Trump saved humanity from concentration camps. And so the argument is, this is why we didn't want the camera on Ryan, because he was laughing over here.
Sorry.
The argument is that because Trump spearheaded Operation Warp Speed, he undid the lockdowns, which he supported in the beginning, and he stopped us all from being rounded up and put in the FEMA camps. And I got to say, just on the surface, this stuff is really absurd. So I don't know. We're not going to watch the video. It's a guy standing in front of something.
Whiteboard deal or what?
Yeah, I don't. It's just some dude. It's bad. It's really bad. Yeah, he's standing in front of some. Look, it's a Q. It's a Q.
Oh,
look at Trump. He's got the hammer of Thor.
Okay.
And so the argument again is that
look at this dude on the right. He's like, what the fuck?
He's like, what did I get into? I lost my girlfriend. My parents won't talk to me, but he's a Grateful Dead fan. Oh, it's a Q. It's a Grateful Dead
Dead Q thing.
All right.
He's a good-looking guy. We'll say that.
He's all right. He's all right. All right. So, guys, I just to answer your question, Mimi, I think it's totally bogus, and it's part of this whole Q thing, which I think Ryan agrees with me that it was a psyop. I think the whole Q thing was a deliberate psyop meant to bring people into this kind of like wacky world where there's these white hats that are all saving us. And it very well could have been like, you don't have to do anything, people that are rightfully upset and that are beginning to recognize our satanic pedophile ring that's in operation. You don't have to do anything because Trump and the white hats and these glorious Michael Flynn, they're all going to save the day. So it's a disempowering move, not to mention it's also an effort to discredit legitimate research into the satanic pedophile stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. I never heard Trump talk about the Franklin scandal and how he was going to remedy that. And, Lawrence Kane, the main pedophilic pimp from the Franklin scandal, who was pandering children from Omaha, Nebraska to Washington, D.C., working in cahoots with Craig Spence. I've never once heard Trump do anything about that. And Lawrence Kane is free right now. He did 10 years in federal prison, in a cushy federal prison, very high class, very low security. And now he's free walking around. And Trump never once said anything about that, about Craig Spence, about CIA brownstoning operations. And now we're going to say that he was freeing children from these pedophile rings. Bullshit. That's completely absurd. When real pedophilic trafficking, child sex trafficking rings were going on and nothing was done about them. Even in Omaha, Nebraska, 80% of voting age adults in that town that were polled believed that the Franklin scandal happened and that there was satanic child sex trafficking going on in their town. But even though that they were voting age adults, it made no difference. They voted, presumably, and nothing changed because these are all controlled. And now Trump's in and now he's the president, even though we've always agreed that the president has no control whatsoever. All these trilateral commissions and Bilderberg and World Economic Forum, those are the institutions of control. But now we're going to believe that Trump, the president of the United States, suddenly has the power to turn things around? Bullshit. Come on, guys. Like, when did we start losing our minds to believe that this was the case? We all knew this, but then somehow the Trump and the Q phenomenon co-opted our beliefs and our minds to believe that this was so. And I would just encourage you to realize what's actually going on here. And that's more centralized control, like John was talking about earlier with the article from Whitney Webb. And I would just really encourage you to take a step back and take a bird's eye view of the situation that's unfolding here.
Come on, my man. Nice rant there, Mr. Ryan. All righty. Tell us how you really feel, Ryan. Now the uncensored one. That was the moderate version. All right, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Live Free Now show. Again, Hopium, Copium, and Complacency. Don't get complacent. That's part of the PSYOP. Recognize that if we want to create a better world, we got to take responsibility for doing that. And I will segue into our final sponsor of the program. Really excited to share with you guys about Off-Grid Dream Life. Off-Grid Dream Life is a free webinar. The next one's coming up in 21 days. But I just want to encourage you to immerse yourself in the world of Jonathan England over at Earth Waking Village. He's done some incredible work, and he's somebody that's not waiting on Trump to do the right thing. He's not waiting on the Republican Party or the Q phenomenon or the white hats. He got a download direct from God that said, you are put on this earth to build these freedom villages. And I tell you what, I know a lot of people want to move to an eco village, an intentional community. We got a 10-acre homestead with 10 or 11 people living there, a bunch of geese and, or I guess, ducks and chickens, and we're doing everything we can. But I tell you what, it's a lot of work. Jonathan England is leading the charge. He built a homestead community eco village with like 55 people on 5 acres in Costa Rica, entirely in the private realm. He's a pastor. He's a man of God. I look up to him. I'm greatly inspired by him. Ryan went down there and spent some time. He found God. He devoted his life to God. Him and his lovely wife got married. He's doing great work. And if that's something that sounds exciting to you and interests you, definitely sign up for his webinar, because he tells you exactly what you need to do. Most importantly, the mindset and spiritual shifts that need to take place within you in order to have the power and the wherewithal to build your own eco community. And then guess what? If it turns out you're like, I don't know, this just seems like something that's too much for me. Maybe I'm retired, or I'd rather just join an existing community. The webinar not only invites you to take part in a really cool course that he's put together, teaching you all these principles and skills, but he invites you to come spend some time down with them at Earth Waking Village, a fully functional eco village. So follow the links in the show notes to sign up. The next one's coming up December 4th, but go ahead and sign up, join the email list, and you'll get a lot of value out of this material. Yep. So this is the Live Free Now show, ladies and gentlemen, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live free, prosperous, and healthy life. We hope that you will take responsibility for creating more freedom, prosperity, and health into your own hands. It's not even the case that you shouldn't rely on Trump. It's the case that there's a psychological operation going on right now to bring people back into politics, to bring people back into a state of complacency, to tie people's egos, to lower their critical thinking skills, so that when the technocracy and the New World Order advances under Trump, people are going to be less likely to stand up against it because he's their guy now. They're all in the same camp as this clown. And I know you viewers, or at least most of you viewers, aren't in that boat. You're in the exit and build boat, the best boat. It's the best boat there is, exit and build. There's never been a better strategy than exit and build. There's been a lot of strategies. I've heard a lot of strategies. A lot of people have different strategies, but there's no better strategy than exit and build. Live free now, guys. Peace.